Hi, I'm Parker Miley.
And I'm Tim Benjamin.
And this is the Rage Podcast, where today we're going to discuss...
something we hope you never have to do.
Perfect. That's a good way of saying that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is leaving a church.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very emotional, heartfelt. A lot of things are going around when leaving a church. And and here's what we're just going to discuss about a little bit today. So obviously, one is where is the line that someone has to cross for you to be able to leave a church or have a valid excuse of leaving a church?
What's the threshold to say, it's time to go? And obviously we're going to point out the obvious one first. Mm-hmm. Is when the bishop tells you to go. In my case, I've done it. This is my 7th appointment. So, so I've left churches obviously because I was appointed to a new church. So I took a new job and moved to a new city and so on and so forth. But we're going to count that as an okay time. If the bishop tells you, okay. So that's first.
But they're they get all iffy from there, I guess.
Yeah. After that, they're a little shaky.
That's a pretty cut and dry one.
Yeah.
But and I think this is something important to address because we live in a world and day and age where we want to do anything to run away from a problem or a situation, conflict.
Anything doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The first thing we do, as so many people do, is just run from it. Run from it as fast as they can go. And that's what you're going to watch out for because, look, I'm not saying I love adversity. Obviously, I don't. Nobody does. But at the same time, it's during those times when you go through a difficult moment that's when you draw people together. One of the things they told me about leaving churches, about when I was the pastor someplace else and now I'm here, is you want to be very careful about, and this happens. I will attest that what I'm about to tell you is the truth from my own experience. Is in the first 6 to 8 months, maybe a year after you leave, you're going to get a lot of phone calls saying, hey, so-and-so's in the hospital, or so-and-so passed away, will you come back and do the funeral? And of course, you love those people, they were your whole life for so long, but here's what happens. If as a pastor I say, sure, I'll go back and do that funeral, I'm robbing the new pastor of having those experiences, because it's that adversity that forms relationships. So, and that's from a pastoral perspective.
Yeah, I'm going to give you now the new perspective, okay? Because at Wayne Street, we've had several. I was talking to Doug Whitling, actually. Yeah, call out Doug. He's a great guy.
Yeah, we love Doug.
But we were looking at the list of all of our pastors from. I don't know when it starts, but we have a hefty page of pastors, and that's how the Methodist Church rolls. Okay, we move them around, but I noticed, and if you look back in our directories or anything, we had a new pastor come in, and we had an exodus of people go out. Mm-hmm. Now, and there's several reasons why the Methodist Church has pastors move, okay? Mm-hmm. One is saying, well, what if the guy doesn't mix well with the congregation, get him out of there, blah, 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 and other things. There's several, and Tim can hit a little bit more.
I mean, just very quickly, the pastor's goal is to work him or herself out of a job. And I come in with a certain set of gifts. I spent a couple years developing those gifts in the congregation, and honestly, there's no need for me to be here anymore, and they bring in somebody else with different gifts, and that, again, in theory, that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. But, the Methodist Church, we get a new pastor every once in a while. We got a new pastor, and a lot of people left. Mm-hmm. Now, I was obviously not around during this era of Wayne Street's life, but that leads to a very particular and picky question. And that is, was the pastor not preaching the truth?
You talking the new one or the one that
the one who came in that made everyone leave? And that is the question that I have to ask, because I wasn't there. I don't know. Maybe the guy could have been a complete jerk. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. But was he not doing his job as the pastor?
Yes. Or were people a little too attached to the previous guy?
Yes.
That's the other side of the coin.
So, in that sense, people left. And there has to be a valid reason to leave a church. Mm-hmm. I think we all know that.
And that valid reason can't be, I had a fight with somebody who sits on the other end of my pew. That's not a valid reason.
Gives me, this. I'll do a little sidebar.
Go ahead.
I have a funny memory popped in my head. I remember when I was a kid, I was sitting in the old sanctuary right over here, and I was feeling underneath the pews. And I got a handful of chewed up gum.
Nice.
I mean, and I was a kid. I don't want to say I'm a germ freak, but I don't like being gross.
Nobody likes somebody else's gum stuck to their hand. I mean, I'll give you that. Yeah.
I don't like being gross. And I remember I was like, I am never coming to this place again.
Okay. Bad reason to leave a church. Don't stick your hand under the pew. I guarantee you'll find something you don't want to find. So yeah.
But and I was obviously a kid, but there's some things. But now, as we all grow up, and as I'm growing up, I realize that would not have been a good excuse to leave a church in that situation. Yeah. So I want to address. There's really only one main reason to ever leave a body of believers, your local body of believers. Yeah. And
let's be clear before we say this. We are differentiating between what happens on the international or national scale and what happens at Wayne Street. Yes. Okay, we're differentiating those two things. So we're talking about things that happen in the local church. Because honestly, the vast majority of people come to church, like in the well over 90% of the people, that's their experience is the local church. Yes. So go ahead.
So what is that one reason, the one valid excuse to leave a church? Well, the church is no longer a church. They do not preach the gospel. They do not have that. You are not growing in your faith. When the church does not do that, which it is called to do, and it does not help you grow, it is your time to leave.
And there's a lot of ways churches can get off of that.
Absolutely.
The pastor can lead them there. The pastor may actually be trying to pull the congregation back, and they won't. I mean, a lot of reasons to get there. But and we're not saying one Sunday that the pastor has a sermon that's a little subpar. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, as a congregation, we're no longer pushing to feed the poor and clothe the naked and trying to grow in our faith, and we're praying and reading and doing discipleship and mission. Those are the kind of things we're talking about on a more than just the last 7 days scale. We're talking long term, because as a person in the church, I mean, obviously you can't leave a church if you're not in it. As a person in the church, you're partially responsible to make sure that stuff is happening. Sure, So if it's not happening, yet you're not doing anything to facilitate it happening, suddenly your excuse to leave is
also on you.
Yeah, also on you.
But that just summarize it, because I've learned one thing from my mentor or how do I say wise elder in my life, Pastor Tim, and that is
please don't embarrass me.
And that is, say the broadest term you can and hope it covers all questions.
Wow, I did tell him that one. That was from
and that is we're going to use the broad term. When you are no longer growing, or the church does the bizarre thing and does not preach the gospel, that is the reasons to leave.
Yeah, and again, you don't want to make a scene, obviously, or go to Facebook and start the Facebook war. I obviously don't mean that. But what happens is, though, you do need to address this with somebody. Address it with the pastor, address it with the board, that kind of stuff. To just vanish out the back door and you're not doing anybody any favors that way.
If you care, obviously, I have a lot of love for Wayne Street.
Of course.
I have been
as everybody attending a church should.
As I've been here since a kid, I remember I was just talking to our office manager about the old church building and everything, and how I can remember some of the things in the basement and when I was a kid and Sunday school and all those things. I have a deep love for my church.
He does. I can attest to that.
And I'm sure Pastor Tim has his home church as well. So, there's something here. I could not feel comfortable if I saw a problem and I did not address it in a way. And I'm not trying to talk as a person who is on staff here at the church. What I'm saying is, as a member of the church, as a person who was raised in the church, it hurts me when I see us ever get off track. I couldn't bear not being able to speak to that. And that is the weight that is on your shoulders when you become a member of a church.
Yeah. I mean, literally, those are the membership vows. We promise to support the church through 4 things: prayers, presence, gifts, and service. And to just vanish out the back door in the middle of the night, that does none of those things. And that's what we want people to see, is that your faith, and particularly church membership, honestly, there's no other greater example of this, of something that you're only going to get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
If you don't do any of the practice, if you don't, use your prayers, presence, gifts, and service, if you don't attend on Sunday, if you don't fellowship and make friends in the congregation, if you don't have a relationship with the pastor, if you don't, work to know Jesus better in your personal life, that membership, you're not going to get much out of it. Because I've used this analogy. In fact, I think I've used it here on the Rage podcast a few times. It's like a stop sign. Faith is like a stop sign. Stop sign don't stop your car. Your response to it stops your car. If you have faith but you don't do anything about it, your car will be glad to go right through that intersection. And church membership is the same way. If you, just because your name is on a list somewhere in our office, that may or may not mean anything. But what are you putting into that? How are you participating in that? How is that changing your life? How is that making you grow? How is that turning you into a better, more transformed, more Christ-like person? And to not do any of those things and never make an attempt to do those things, and then to be angry or frustrated or leave the church you're in because those things aren't happening, yet you're not doing anything to facilitate that, you're actually part of the problem.
The church was built on a faulty man, on a man who was not perfect. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying the builder. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Jesus was the builder of the church, but what did he build the church upon? His
Peter.
name literally means rock.
Yeah. Actually, it means rock head.
Rock head.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's blockhead, like they say. Yeah.
But and again, Peter wasn't perfect. Jesus actually calls out Peter many times in Scripture.
Mm-hmm. Get behind me, Satan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have that man who Jesus calls, "I'm going to build my church upon." We cannot expect us, the church, to fulfill every aspect of our duties here on earth perfectly.
Yeah. Jesus chose 12. One was a betrayer, and the other one said, "Jesus who?" I mean. So even Jesus was at best 2 out of 10, 2 out of 12, or 10 out of 12.
Yes.
And that so still we're imperfect, and churches being made up of people are going to be imperfect organizations. Look, trust me, just in the last 24 hours, I've had to deal with some things around here that were unpleasant, and I didn't want to have to do that, and wished had to happen. However, in that process, I still love the church, and I there's no place else I'd rather be. Mm-hmm. And I know Parker feels the same way, and it's that love of the church means, and I feel 100% the same way Parker does, is that if there are things going on and I don't get a chance to try to write the course or try to be a part of the solution, that would hurt my heart. And I'm not talking because I get paid to do this stuff. I mean, mm-hmm. it would be painful to me to not be able to try to do something to make it better, at least respond in some way to get us more focused upon Christ and what way we want that to go. And that's the way you have to feel. The moment that we cross the line to say, all right, it may be time to think about things, is when you have done that for a time. Again, how long is that time? It probably depends on the situation. But we've done that for a time. We've worked to try to write the course, and the course is not showing progress. Seems unwritable by the way things are going, and that may be a time to go and find a new congregation to be a part of. Now, I hear there's one excuse to leave a church that I hear all the time, and I want to. May I go ahead and shoot holes in it?
Absolutely.
Don't ever leave a church because you're not being fed. That is the worst excuse to ever leave a church. I don't care if the pastor can preach his way out of a paper bag. That is irrelevant. The church doesn't exist just to make sure that you're entertained during the sermon on Sunday morning, contrary to popular belief. So if you're not being fed, the question that you need to ask yourself is, what am I bringing to the service? When the pastor gets up there and says, okay, today's reading is from whatever, have you done anything prior to the last time you heard him or her say that? Have you prayed for the pastor at all during the week? Again, I'm not saying every pastor's perfect. There are some who are in the job who shouldn't be. I fully admit that. But I don't think that this idea of not being fed is as prevalent as I've heard presented. Because I've heard a lot of people who have said, I left because I wasn't getting anything out of it. Well, my question would be is, what are you putting into it? Is there any effort on your behalf to make the church service meaningful to you? And if not, then you got to ask yourself, well, if you're not getting anything out of it, then whose fault is that? Because a lot of times on Sunday morning, the pastor is tasked with the job to say, here's 250 people that you get to drag into God's presence, kicking and screaming. And the pastor's like, I'm kind of tired today. And when that's the situation the pastor's up against, nobody smiles. Nobody. There's no movement, no energy in the congregation. You expect one person to get up there and drag the entire congregation into God's presence when half of them aren't even listening. That's tough. Okay, that's tough. So if you're going to leave a church because you're not being fed, the very next question, if you feel like I'm not getting anything out of this, is why not? Is that somebody else's fault, or do you bear some responsibility in that?
I can't address enough how important it is to be involved in a local body of believers. Again, for
mandatory.
You who may be obviously listening, who are hopefully or maybe members of Wayne Street Church,
or another church,
or another church, but wherever you belong, it is important that you have a local church. This is Wayne Street United Methodist Church, and the Methodist Church is a part of, a conference, and that's a local group of the church. And then it has the whole Methodist Church as a whole, and that's just a little bit of the whole church that is made up of the body of Christ.
Which is a beautiful thing.
Yes,
it is.
Yes. Which again, the Methodist, we're here. We do our things. There's some people who are still a part of that body who do their things and have their specialties and different things.
Yeah. There's different kind of services, different languages, all these different things.
But I'll tell you one thing, and this is gonna be a little bit of a Methodist thing. We have.
Parker's going to the big guns.
The Book of Discipline. I don't agree with everything that's in this book. And this is the guiding principles. This is what the United Methodist Church believes, holds true to. It's what they speak truth about. It's what the larger United Methodist Church says, here's what we believe on this topic, or yada, yada, yada. I don't agree with all of it. That does not mean I am not going to stay a member of the United Methodist Church. I may preach some things a little bit different than what this book may preach to me, but that does not mean I just have to run away. I almost want to say there's a certain there's value in the personality of every single member of a church
and congregations have personalities too.
So when I went through the whole process, baptism, confirmation. I've been here. I've been a member of a Methodist church since then, and I haven't agreed with some of these things. I'm not going to run away. I'm going to speak what I believe, and I hope someone tries to correct me.
Yeah, and there's a reason why in the membership vows we don't say, and do you embrace
and you swear,
all this? Yeah.
It's not being sworn upon the Book of Discipline. Right. This is just what, they have
to
only
help you
to
know
be
what
your
to
tools.
expect when you step into a United Methodist Church. Now you know what to expect. And it also is tools to say, here's how you run an ad council meeting and those kind of things.
Yeah, there's a bunch of boring stuff in here too. Yeah. District Board of Laity. That's a fun one.
Yeah, it's inspiring reading there.
But again, I don't think anything that's going to happen in this book is going to make me leave Wayne Street, because Wayne Street is a family. And I know that's cringy, we're all a big family or yada yada yada. But for me, it is. I grew up with these people. I know these people. They've supported me. They've been with me through life. They're my family. And I'm not going to leave my family just because one crazy cousin that works for the top said something a little bit insane,
That's actually a better analogy than you realize. Yeah, that'll work.
But I'm not going to leave this family, this body of believers that I'm a part of, just because of something little that doesn't really affect me either. So that's kind of to reference something that's coming in the future of the Methodist Church's lifetime, and I'm sure you all know what that looks like.
We've done some episodes on that too.
But that's all. That's what I have to say about that. There's value in your personal opinions and beliefs in a church. This is a place where we are open to hear them, and we are gladly willing to guide you on maybe some of those opinions.
And one of the things that we hope you get out of this episode is, sure, there's going to be some stuff in churches that aggravate us. Believe me, I know. But at the end of the day, before you decide to start doing the church shopping thing, which is also another phrase no one should ever use, is you make sure you understand what you're leaving behind, because there's a lot of babies that go out with the bathwater in this kind of stuff. And there may be one or two things you're unhappy about, but you got to make sure getting away from those things is worth everything else you're leaving behind. The relationships and the history and all those different things. And we don't want you to have to start over every 4 months in a new congregation, because there's no way those congregations or the experience there could really mean as much to you as if you would persevere and own your belonging to that body of Christ. And that's a lot to leave behind. So
there's an importance in being a member of a local body of believers.
And don't ever take that importance for granted.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, everybody. Well, we hope that you're very happy and love the home church that you're in. And also, I'm very much considering starting a GoFundMe page to get Parker a copy of his own Discipline, because he really loves that book. So yeah. All right, friends. Well, having said all that, we hope you all love your churches that you're in. Make sure you're doing the work to be ready before Sunday morning rolls around. And, and if you don't have a church home of your own and you'd like to join us here at Wayne Street, of course, we would always love to have you. And we'll even throw in some cookies to sweeten the deal. So, yeah, come on out and 8:30 or 10:45 on Sunday morning and be a part of our congregation, because we would love to welcome you into our relationship. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us, and have a great week.